The lovely county of Cornwall, home of beautiful beaches, tranquillant hotels, and pasties.
With our tourist-inducing hotels and beaches, you'd think we'd have similar levels of tourist attractions. Well, no. Our main tourist attractions here in Cornwall were the theme parks Camel Creek and Flambards. The reason I say were is because Flambards doesn't actually exist anymore. I get I might find these places boring just because I'm not the target audience, but I was at one point and my parents would always take me to these places, and they're not massive theme park enthusiasts like myself, but we share the opinion that there's pretty much nothing to do there if you're above about 10. And therefore going is pointless. So in this video what I thought I'd do is attempt to do some deep diving and see if we can find where these parks have slipped up and touch on what I think could be done to improve. Also, if you're new here and you like what you see, then don't forget to subscribe. It's free and it helps me out a lot. Any keen viewers will remember that I've talked about Flambards before on my channel, as I talked about it shutting down with immediate effect. I was supposed to go there on a school trip last summer, but instead, because it closed, they had to send about 60 15-year-olds to wreak havoc down at Camel Creek, which, as I'm sure you can imagine, went down a treat with the parents. Flambards opened in 1976, and while at first it was just an exhibition of aircraft models, they soon started to expand and added a dragon roller coaster, carousel, Corralado log flume, just to name a few. Around 2001, the dragon roller coaster was replaced with the Hornet. This was one of my first ever roller coasters and one of only 2 models ever made. The other one is currently still operating to this day in France, and I'll put a little video of that on screen now. They also added what they claimed to be the UK's first twisting drop tower, known as the Skyraker, which opened in 2010. It seemed all was going well for Flambards until June 3rd, 2024, when due to maintenance issues and the interest of customer safety, the park announced that Thunderbolt, Hornet, Skyforce and Sky Swinger would be closing. Shortly after this announcement, the Thunderbolt and Sky Swinger were removed from the park. The Hornet stood standing and not operating, and my best guess as to why it was because maybe they were waiting for the park to be empty so they could fully disassemble the ride, because it is a big ride. Flambards did attempt to fill the gaps made by the absence of these rides with the Dodgems just near Skyforce and a small plane ride where Thunderbolt used to be. And I must say, this looked and sounded really, really janky. Just have a watch of some of these videos. Right, so you're telling me we lost one of the most intense rides in Cornwall in favour of Ryanair the ride? Fortunately, on the 22nd of August, just over a month later, Flambards were able to bring Skyforce back from the dead. However, you had to be 1.4 metres tall to ride, so there was a bunch of family rides, and then that. So Skyforce was back in operation, but there were hardly any thrill seekers in the park to ride it. They had one, but at what cost? On the 4th of November the same year, Flambards shut the park entirely. They issued a statement about the closure, but I've already covered that in a video, so don't forget to check that out if you're interested. They basically said that due to low guest numbers, they were unable to turn a profit and pretty much decided to close the park. The soft play the park had is still in operation to this day, however the park is closed and awaiting demolition. So that's what happened at Flambards. Now, what would I have done instead? Instead of closing the park, I would have probably tried to sell it to another theme park company like Merlin, for example. They own some of the UK's premier attractions such as Alton Towers, Thorpe Park, Chessington and even some sea life centres, although there's a small chance that a park this small is beneath them. There are loads of fields nearby for expansion if the owners were willing to buy them. There's even a Sainsbury's next door if you find yourself short on nectar points. Failing that, maybe instead of getting rid of the big rides, it may have been worth to repair them and create a TV advert like they used to back when stuff like that was affordable. That's Flambards covered. Now, let's talk about Camel Creek. As a whole, Camel Creek is more marketed towards families, but I went near a lot as a kid and pretty much grew up with it. And I went every couple of weeks as a child. So that's why I'm featuring it in the video, and I'll be able to provide a lot more detail than I would for Flambards, because I didn't go there as much. So, Camel Creek officially opened publicly as the Shire Horse Centre in 1989 and had horses. However, in 2004, the park was bought by Creeley Great Adventure Parks, who also owned Creeley in Devon, which, if you're interested, I've been there before a couple of years ago, so check that vlog out if you're interested. The two sister parks had a very strong relationship with each other. In fact, at one point they even had a theme song. There were multiple variations of this theme tune with slightly different lyrics that I can remember very fondly from my childhood. However, I'm not too sure if this was played at Creeley as well. I assume it was, because it doesn't mention it specifically being Cornwall or Devon. But yeah, that's just to prove that the parks were very interconnected. From what I can understand, it looks like the park shared mascots as well. There were 3 between the 2 parks, being Buddy Bear, Swampy, the Swamp Thing, and Dina the Dinosaur. Now, if you go to either of these parks to this day, because they're both still existing, you'll find that Creeley used Buddy Bear as a mascot, and Camel Creek, or Cornwall Creeley as it was known back then, used, and still do use, Swampy and Dina. Now, the reason I said that I think they shared mascots is because if you go to Devon Creeley and go down one of the slides, you can see an illustration / cardboard cutout / painting of Dina the dinosaur. The other reason is that Camel Creek, or Cornwall's Creeley as it was known back then, had a ride, and still do have a ride, themed to Dina, called Dizzy Dina. And here's a little video of it on screen. Apparently they got that from Creeley, and it was there at Creeley before it came to Camel Creek. So, and if that was there, why would they have that there for no reason? You know, I'm pretty sure Dina was at Creeley for some time. However, when the ride was shipped down to Cornwall's Creeley, it meant that Swampy did not have a ride, but Dina did. And Swampy was the other mascot of the park, and that's sort of really unfair. So to fix that, they added Swampy and Dina Land, which was a small kids area that consisted of 4 rides, being Dina's Dancing Flowers, Swampy's Drop, Swampy's Sky Ride, and Dizzy Dina. This meant that both characters now had 2 rides, so equality! One of the most famous installations of Camel Creek was the addition of the 5D cinema, which every year played a brand new film. Except this year, because they're kind of going back on themselves, and they're playing the film that the cinema opened with. So yeah. Also, there's a video of us on that ride, so here we go.
Right guys, so now we're doing the 5D cinema.
Shout 200! 200! 200? Timing? 4Bs? Dead? Woohoo! 3D cinema!
Also, just in case I get in trouble, I just thought I'd point out I was not in that car that had all the people shouting. I was in the one, I think I was 2 or 3 down from the side, because we wanted to get right in the middle, and the people filming weren't in the middle. So yeah, we weren't filming, but my mates were. Also, don't go shouting. It's a bit of a pain for everyone else, to be honest. We shouldn't have done it. Well, I say that they shouldn't have done it. But in all fairness, we did have the whole theatre to ourselves. So I'm not excusing it, but you know, if there's people in there with you, don't ruin it for everyone else. So yeah, I just thought I'd say that. In 2016, the park was bought from Creeley Great Adventure Parks by a man called John Broome. Now, you probably don't know who John Broome is, but in the theme park community, he's an absolute legend. John Broome pretty much owned Alton Towers for a short period of time. So yeah, we were pretty hyped to be hearing this. By this point, the name had changed to Camel Creek, and it was only a family park, so we weren't expecting loads from John Broome. However, he literally owned Alton Towers for a period of time, so we were really excited to see what he was going to cook up. And what did he cook up? Airbender. Although it was a cloned off-the-shelf model and was nothing compared to the Hornet of Flambards, compared to the Morgul, which was the only roller coaster that Camel Creek had at the time, this thing packed a punch and brought loads of people to the park. A new mascot was also introduced, known as Creaky the Camel. He was also given his own ride, Creaky's Water Rush, possibly the slowest log flume in the world. Also, fun fact, these rides were opened by Joe Swash. Next to the brand new log flume, they also added the Clown Coaster, which is relocated from the now defunct Oakwood theme park. Rest in peace. Unfortunately, shortly after this, we discovered that Airbender was horrendous in terms of reliability and just kept breaking down. And that's why, out of all the videos that I've gone to Camel Creek, you've never actually seen me going on Airbender. I'd also like to point out how sharp the brakes are at the end of this ride. If I just quickly fast forward this video to the end, and you can hear the poor guy on this ride just wince in pain. Have a listen. Just next door to Airbender, they added the Magic Dragon roller coaster, which is similar to Morgor in terms of intensity. In 2021, a project began to move the rocking boat, log flume and dinghy slides to near the front of the park. This period of time is what I would describe as peak Camel Creek, but it wouldn't last long because at the end of 2023, without even a trace or a reason or any prior warning really, Airbender was just ripped from its location and moved. But wait, it gets worse. Airbender was replaced with a golf course and some children's slides. Very, very unfair. Now, Airbender moved up country to a theme park called Lightwater Valley, and they were axing off all their big thrill rides. I mean, they used to have a roller coaster that at the time was the longest in the world, and they just chopped that down, and they placed Airbender there, and it lasted a year before they removed it, and we currently don't know where it is. So there we go, that's a brief history of Camel Creek. The question is though, what would I do? Now, playing it realistically is what I do. The rides at most of the rides at Flambards are still in situ, so, and assuming Flambards doesn't reopen again, I would take out the drop tower that Camel Creek currently have, put down the one that Flambards have, I'd knock down the golf course and play area, and whack the Hornet down, and so on and so forth until we have a pretty much upgraded park. And there we have it. That's the end of the video. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you did enjoy. If you did enjoy this video, then please don't forget to subscribe because this video took a very long time to make, and let me know if you'd like to see more of these in the future.